everyone, my name's Dogtor Izzy and thank you for dropping by this video. As I said, my name's Izzy and doctor, pun on doctor because I'm a vet, hence the scrubs. This isn't my usual kind of attire. Thought I'd better put some kind of uniform on for you guys. I've been a vet now for 4.5, nearly 5 years, which is terrifying. Officially starting to count myself as a senior vet now. I've been a small animal vet for my entire career and I've been an emergency vet now for the last 2.5. December of 2020, I decided to make the plunge into the world of out of hours and I've been there ever since. And I've enjoyed every single minute of it. It's definitely where my passion lies, but I still know plenty of different veterinary things about multiple different animals. You know, I got myself into a disgusting amount of debt. Disgusting! Amount of debt to learn about all these different animals. But there's a lot that can be learned from the veterinary world to the general public, especially through the medium of things like YouTube and TikTok, Instagram. My subject for today's video is going to be a TikTok that I came across that a lot of people tagged me in and wanted me to talk about and react to just in comments, but sod it, I'm a one-up, y'all. We're making a video out of it. Let's go. So this video was created by the family. Oh. I just got the pun. I've looked at some of their other videos actually, and they're actually pretty good videos in general, but this one really is an entire miss, and we need to talk about why. This video was created talking about vet bills, which famously a hot topic and a topic that I will continue to be justifying for my entire career. So let's have a little look and see.
What seems to be the problem with Mabel? My wife called this morning because she's been limping. Right, let's take a look.
So they're taking this dog into the vets because of some limping. That's a really common complaint. It's something that we see a lot in both day practice and out of hours. Out of hours, we tend to see the limping because of things happening very acutely. By the way, this is the first lesson of the day. Acute versus chronic. I hear acute versus chronic misused all the time. So acute is basically something that happens very quickly or quite suddenly. So an acute pain would be something that like builds up within an hour or something like that, or it builds up within maybe a day or something like that. An acute injury is something that happens really quickly, so like a car accident or something like that. Whereas something that's chronic is long term. So if you have chronic backache, it's something that's been going on for a significant period of time. So a few days, a few weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. It's a longer period of time, basically. Chronic is so often used by people to describe something in its severity. Chronic has nothing to do with severity. If anything, chronic things usually are a bit less severe than acute things. Acute things usually are more painful but shorter acting. So please, can we please start using chronic correctly? Let us continue.
Let's take a look. It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here for you, okay?
Yeah, we do get a lot of owners who are very like worried for their pets when they come in. Like the pet's only got to show the smallest amount of anxiety in the vets, which is extremely normal. They're in an environment that smells weird. They're being touched and prodded by somebody that they don't know. Honestly, the worst thing you can do when you're in the vets and your pet is angsty is to get anxious and angsty yourself.
Just gonna take a quick scan.
Why did he sniff? Listen, my guy, we smell enough bad stuff. We smell enough bad stuff in this job without voluntarily inhaling something new. Also, taking a scan, he's taking a picture. I'm not entirely sure what vet in their right mind would scan a broken leg. So we have several different types of scans in the veterinary world. There is an MRI scan, there is a CT scan, and then there is an ultrasound scan. Obviously, none of these can be done using a phone. I think there might be some weird ultrasound machines out there that can be linked to your phone, but even then, you wouldn't ultrasound a dog for lameness. That's ridiculous. I think they sometimes ultrasound horses' tendons for lameness, but this is a Shih Tzu, my dude. You ain't getting a saddle on this thing. Yes, you could potentially stick it in the CT scanner if there's limping, but that's an extremely overkill thing to do as a first response thing. If they're actually walking on it and just limping, then you would probably try pain relief first and offer x-rays.
Oh, she's so cute!
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm fully guilty of saying that. I'll be like, oh my god, aren't they adorable? And I've definitely asked owners if I could take pictures of their animals in the room before. Please, if your vet is doing that, the amount of animals we see per day and your vet asks to take a picture of your animal because they think they're that cute, you should be flattered, very flattered.
Here it is. It's a leaf on her paw.
You laugh. But I have found dumber reasons for lameness. I remember I had it's a Shih Tzu actually. A Shih Tzu came in and this dog was really profoundly lame. And it was out of hours, so the owner was like, oh my goodness, what's happened? It was after a walk, it was acute again. And the owner came in a complete flap going, oh my god, my dog, I think he's broken his foot. And to be honest, given how lame it was when it came in, I kind of was like, not too sure myself. But I took it into the consult room, overturned that paw to have a look, pebble. with pebble in paw. Remove pebble lameness gun. But there's all sorts of reasons for dogs to go lame. There's grass seeds in the summer, there's injuries, there's fungal infections in the nail, there can be nail pulls, so the dew claw getting ripped is obscenely common. I can't count the number of dew claws I've pulled now because they've been ripped.
Everything all right now, Mr. Lee?
Yep.
Right, let's sort this bill out for you. So that'll be £425 then, please, Pink.
What vets are you going to for a consult in what I can only assume is normal hours for 420 odd pounds? Like, holy mother. But that is an extreme exaggeration of a bill, considering you have literally just had a dog in that has had some limping with a basic consult that required no anesthetic, you had no medication to go home with. They said scan. I mean, even if we included like an ultrasound, even though you wouldn't, it still wouldn't come to 420 quid. Most consult fees range depending on the area and the company that you're with and everything like that. In the UK, somewhere between about £40 up until about sort of 65. It really depends where you are, who you're with. But yeah, this is clearly an over-exaggeration, but it's also really perpetuating the fact that we're not worth our money, or that what we charge is just obscenely over the top, because it really isn't. Like, it really isn't. And I'll go into that in more detail in a minute.
Paying cash or card?
Sorry, for what?
£195 for the emergency consultation, £65.
£195 for an emergency consult, so he's just clarified that it's an emergency consult. To be honest, £195 if it's after 11 PM is pretty standard and actually pretty cheap in some areas. But if you have a mild bit of limping, then you probably could leave that until the morning, and some out-of-hours services will say, do you think it could wait until the morning? And we will tell you the consult fee before you arrive, so you have the option to come in if you want. Some cases that we hear, we're like, yeah, you need to come in like right now. So we know what is true emergency and what is like urgent, would like to be seen now if you have the money, but it's not like your dog's gonna die. The fact that you've turned up to this appointment not knowing what you're gonna pay is either the fault of the surgery for not telling you beforehand, and potentially also the owner's responsibility for not asking.
Pounds for the scan.
He just took a picture.
£65 for a scan. That's a very cheap ultrasound. Most ultrasounds are around 80, and that's just for a fast scan, which is literally just like a fast scan means focused assessment for trauma. It's basically a really quick scan that you go over the entire abdomen and usually over the chest as well to check for things like pneumothorax, hemothorax, pyothorax, chyothorax, which are all the type of things you can get in the chest. So you can get air, pus, blood, or a lovely thing called chyle, which is not Kyle as in the name, it's spelt with a CH. It's disgusting and looks like strawberry milkshake. And then you also check the abdomen again for bleeding, usually, any obvious tumors, anything that could be an immediate cause for the issue. But this dog came in for limping. You wouldn't do that.
£50 for removal of the foreign object.
It was a leaf.
£85 for medical.
Well, removal of a foreign object, if it is something like, you know, a grass seed or something like that, yes, it will have to have a charge to it because it's a procedure. Aforementioned pebble in foot that I mentioned with Shih Tzu, yeah, funny old thing, I didn't charge for that one.
Medication.
Medication? There's nothing wrong with her.
And for...
Well, to be fair, actually, with the medication, that vet in this scenario didn't actually prescribe any medication, but if he has been prescribed medication and the dog is painful from the remnants of this foreign object that is left, then yes, we would recommend medication. Clients have every right to turn down medication if they don't want to take it. We understand that, but that's your discretion. But we would recommend it for their welfare if we think that it would help with their healing.
£40 for a checkup in 2 weeks.
No, I refuse to pay. Sorry, Mabel.
A £40 checkup in 2 weeks. I mean, we wouldn't ever make anyone pay in advance for a checkup. We recommend booking it in twofold. Number one, because appointments fill up really, really fast, and we want to make sure that you can be seen on the right day when you need the checkup, so that you're not delayed by several days, and then if there's a problem, it sits and festers for a few days. And the second one is because we want to keep clients retained and get them to come back, because we want them to feel more comfortable with coming into the surgery. It's good for the animals to come into the surgery more, to actually see the place. And, you know, in terms of a business practice, it makes sense to actually keep people coming back in. But a lot of places offer rechecks for free, especially if they're with nurses and things like that. They're very often free. And the point is as well, you can cancel rechecks. If your dog is absolutely fine and you don't think there's any need for them to be checked and you're happy with them, you can cancel the appointments. There's absolutely no obligation to go to them. And we would never make you pay in advance. This is just straight up a lie.
You're going to have a...
So this endpoint, it is a sad fact that if there is a client who can't afford treatment, they can in fact sign their animals over to the practice, but it's not as simple as, oh, sign over to the practice then just foots the bill. The practice has to have someone within the practice or a rescue centre attached to the practice, such as a branch of an RSPCA or the Cats Protection or Dogs Trust or something like that. They need to have a charity branch attached to them that is willing to then cover the costs for this animal, and then that animal cannot be handed back to the original owner. They can't be like, oh well, I want the animal back now that they're all treated and everything. No, you rescind your rights completely. It's a heartbreaking decision for some people, but if it means the difference between, like, a prime example is small puppy, maybe 5 months old or something, no problems otherwise, has had a broken leg, owner's insurance hasn't kicked in yet, or they didn't get insurance, which is the silliest thing you can ever do, by the way. Please insure your animals. I don't care if they're moggies, random dogs, I don't care. Insure them. Insure them. Insure them.
Insure them.
I don't think I can ever stress that enough. I don't care what company you go with, just insure them. But yeah, prime example, if that puppy has an injury that can be treated but is expensive, you know, instead of having to put the puppy down because it can't be treated, you sign them over to the practice, they can therefore be treated and then sent to another home. It's an option. It's sad, and it's sad that it has to come to that, but when you take on the responsibility of an animal like a puppy or a kitten or something like that, you have to understand that sometimes unexpected bills can happen, and if you're not prepared for these bills, you really can end up in a certain creek without a certain instrument, if you get my drift. But yeah, this video, I get that they were trying to be funny about it. I get that they were trying to be funny, but the trouble is with videos like this is they really perpetuate a stereotype that vets are just these absolute barbarians who are just thirsty for your goddamn money. Let me just break down for you an average sort of cost of what happens with fees that you pay. So if you think about it, you probably expect most of the fees to be going to the vets themselves. Obviously some has to cover like medication or whatever, and maybe some for like, I don't know, electricity or something. No. I think there was a recent sort of study that showed exactly how much goes to vets compared to the rest of the practice. Vets take on average of what you pay, about 20% goes to staff fees, 20%, and that's not just the vet, by the way, that's the nurses working out the back that you may not see, the reception staff, cleaners, and the admin team who sit upstairs. They don't have anything to do with the animals, but they still deserve a salary. They got mortgages to pay, they got kids to feed, they got their own pets to pay for. Then of course there's things like medications. We have to buy that lot in and somehow still make a profit out of it because we are still a business at the end of the day. We have to make a profit or we can't run as a business. Yes, there are charity veterinary practices, but they have to do things with a very strict budget, and they have to really be tight on who gets access to this charity treatment, because veterinary medicine and medicine in general is insanely expensive. Unfortunately in the UK we are quite spoilt with the NHS and we have no idea what medicine costs. You've only got to look at an American medical bill for your average human to realise quite how lucky we are to have the NHS. And it also puts into perspective how cheap veterinary medicine is compared to human medicine. But there's also bills that you maybe don't even think about. So yes, there's electricity, there's water, there's plumbing, there's all that kind of thing. There's also maintenance for x-rays, there's buying the x-rays, there's getting the safety certificates done for the x-rays, there's getting the x-ray plates, there's the sandbags to hold the patients down when they're only sedated, or you're doing a conscious x-ray. There are cleaning products for the x-ray, there are the triggers for the x-ray, there's the computer programs for the x-ray, and this is just the x-ray! Think about that for every other thing in the practice, the ops theatres, the laparoscopic equipment if the practice has it. Sometimes they have diathermy, which is a fantastic bit of kit, by the way. There's ultrasound machines that also cost an absolute fortune. Things like the computers, there's things like maintenance of the actual building, there's property maintenance. There's even stupid things like buying office supplies, office chairs. We need those things to be able to work. Sometimes places pay for licenses for things like having a TV in the waiting room. If there's a TV there, a license has to be paid, which is why quite a lot of places don't have a TV in the vets, because we're trying to cut corners for you. There's also things like staff benefits and, you know, company business expenses that have to be paid for, so mileage to get to things like training events or accommodation to stay at training events and things like that, the training events themselves that are put on for new grad schemes and the like. The expenses for running a veterinary practice are just endless. There's so much money that goes into maintaining a veterinary practice. Most vet practices aren't running on a huge profit, they really are not. And to be honest, by far the biggest thing that makes us money is doing things like vaccines on the routine, because they're fairly quick consults and they can be done fairly quickly by experienced vets, because we just know when something's wrong kind of almost by instinct by the time you get to a certain level, and you can get a lot done in one day. Things like an out of hours operation, they can take hours and hours and hours, and actually time economy wise, it's not very good, especially compared to the amount of equipment you can use if you're doing like an operation. But all in all, veterinary medicine is exceedingly expensive. And even things like, you know, the clinical exam when we're actually looking at your animal and knowing where to find the problem. While we laugh about this video and there was, you know, it was a leaf on the paw, funnily enough, the owner didn't notice there was a leaf relief on the poor, did he? It's almost like he had to go to a trained professional to find the issue. 5 years we trained for. 5 in the UK. And in America it's even more because they have to do a pre-vet degree. Thankfully in the UK you can go straight out from school, straight into uni, straight out into the veterinary world at the tender age of 23. Personally, I think that's maybe a little bit too young looking back, but never mind. So there's not only the actual practice itself, there's the training for the staff, and it's not just the vets. Receptionists have to have training, the admin staff have to have training as well, and the nurses have years of training. Nurses have a very, very high clinical skill set. But anyway, that's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, my first video into the world of YouTube as your friendly neighborhood internet vet who hopefully is going to be here to bring you a lot more content. If you enjoyed my content, it'd be great if you could give this video a like, and if you really liked it, a subscribe. And if you have any suggestions of things you'd like to see from this channel, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Thank you so much for sticking around, everybody, and remember, look after yourselves, look after your pets, and please remember to look after your vets. See you later. Bye!
A massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who are listed here on the screen. This video would not be possible without the support of you guys, so I can never say thank you enough. If you are interested in supporting the channel, then please check the link below for my Patreon where you can subscribe and get a whole bunch of bonus extra content. Thank you again!